there, welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuck with Queen Bee Creations, and we are going to be playing with a couple of the new IOD Christmas molds. I haven't had a chance to break these out yet. I still have two others that I haven't used yet. Right, but they're going to be too big. The jingles and baubles, they're going to be too big, but I think that there's components from the Blitz and from the Holly Lane that will work for us. Now, here's the deal. I thrifted two of these. So, little candle holder that we will remove, and the two cutout trees. So pretty cool, but hey, I can't just leave them like this. So we are gonna put molds on one. Now, what I'm looking to do is I'm gonna be using, okay, that's attached. That's kind of weird, but it's attached in there, so it's staying there. I thought I'd be able to take it out, paint it, and then just put that baby's glued in. Okay, painting around it. I want to use IOD clay on both of these, but we're going to be using it two different ways. So on this first one, we are going to, this came from HomeSense and was $20. All right, I thrifted them. I didn't pay that. Gotta love it. Okay, so if you're looking for them, that's where it came from. Don't know what year or season though. So what we're gonna do with this guy is we're gonna do our molds and we're gonna add them all over the front. So we're gonna be adding a bunch of texture to it. Okay, so with this, I've got my IOD Air Dry Clay. I've got my cornstarch to put into some of my molds. I have my Gorilla Glue, okay, so my wood glue. And I'm just wondering how long that, I'm thinking for the trunk, I could put that whole great big long pine cone for the trunk. So the first step of this is just getting the molds on and then leaving them overnight to dry. So when I go to do my paint and my finishing and all that kind of stuff, I'm probably going to be rubbing, and so I want them to be kind of firmed up so that I don't risk. I'm just thinking while I'm doing this, I might as well do some of the little hollies. Get some of these done while I'm at it. Now you, of course, could use resin for this. You hear all those trucks out there beeping away, my goodness. So you could use resin for this if you would rather. Okay, I'm just using my clay because I think it will work fine. I'm doing some of the individual little leaves. I definitely want to use one of these little stars at the top. Maybe this guy. These are snowflakes, I know, but there's some that look like stars. Maybe this one. Okay, I'll see when they come out which one pops out better. But I'll probably put a couple others in there anyway, elsewhere. So we'll get everything all done up here, and then we'll start molding the clay. Okay, so I've got a damp cloth that I keep in there just to keep my clay soft and pliable. If you ever find that your clay dries out, just dampen a paper towel, put it in. It'll kind of absorb the water. If it's still not soft enough, just do it again. And just putting a damp one into there as you pack it away just kind of keeps it nice and soft, and then it's ready for you rather than you're discovering that it's too hard or something. So all that you're doing is pushing the clay into these molds. I use the micro rim on the IOD molds, which is awesome, to be able to almost push my finger against and cut the clay off so I get nice crisp edges of these. So I'm just gonna do all of the components of this particular mold that I want to use. And I haven't used this one yet, so we'll see how the details come out with the clay. I've been seeing a lot of people using the resin with them, and I think it's just because of the detail. People are worried about the clay, but we'll check it out. Okay, when I go to remove them from the mold, I was trying to think of a way to say that, but removing them from the mold, I flip the mold over, and then I take the brush that I had used for brushing the cornstarch on, and I use it to kind of flip my molds out. And that way my big fat fingers don't leave big fat fingerprints in them. And if there's any sticking, I just find that the brush works really well to kind of tease them out of the mold. So the idea here, let me put away some of this clay, and I've only got some made. I'll see how many more I need and what they might look like in the shape, but I'm just gonna get started now. The next stage is to get some glue on. So adding some glue to the backing, and I just always tend to use my finger just because I really want it to go right out to the very edge of my piece. I just find that when it's drying, if I've got the glue right out to the edge, then I have less chance that it's going to do any kind of lifting. So, oh, that's just wide enough for that edge. Okay, perfect. Now, let me take my one little star. Awesome. So I'm just going to put the glue here for this. Then it can just sit. Okay, and the rest is all just filling in. So I'm just going to take my molds and move them all around, kind of lay them out, see where I want to put them, and then stick them on down. Okay, so this is what I've got for this one. I'm putting those aside to dry. Now, rather than using the molds, for this one, what I want to do is cover the whole surface with clay, and then I want to emboss my design into it. So I'm thinking it will be easiest, I've got some parchment paper laid down just to make this a little bit easier. Maybe I need to do it this way. And rolling pin, and just start rolling some of the clay out so I get it nice and flat and elongated. And then I'll start to kind of piece it onto there. Rather than trying to push little pieces in and trying to get them to be flat on there. So the idea with this is that once we have the clay flattened out, we can kind of push anything into it to create an impression. All right, let's see how we can go here. All right, so it's sort of mostly in place, and I just want to kind of roughly cut off some of the excess clay, because I can still kind of push in place here for the areas that aren't covered yet. Let's get that excess clay out of the way. And I'm just using a pair of scissors for this. I could have gotten my X-Acto knife, but it's way up by my desk, and I'm being lazy. When it comes down to it, I don't want to have to start and stop and video and all that kind of stuff. So it just is what it is. Okay, so you can see I don't have any over on those other sides, but what I need to do first is I do need to cover this with glue so that my clay, when I get it on there, is going to stick. All right, let's see how this goes. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of use my fingers to kind of mold it in place around the tree form. Yeah, lots of glue. And then I'm going to start to cut away again some of the excess here and start to apply it where I'm missing some. Okay, the other thing that I want, let me just put some on my parchment paper here, is just a little bit of water for my fingers to kind of smooth this out a little bit. So just to get my edges smooth so it doesn't look too shaky, right? That'll ultimately look like it was meant to be this way. Okay, so this works excellent with pushing with your fingers to be able to emboss this. This one just a little bit more, I think. Awesome. So that's this one. You can see everything impressed into it. All of those designs are nice and crisp. And it's really going to be about the finishing. It's going to be about how we make all those little elements stand out. And we can't get started on that until this is dry, so we have to wait till tomorrow. We have both of our trees and they are dry now. So we have this one with the molds attached, and then we have this one that we had taken the stamps and impressed them into the clay. And we've got some cracking and that sort of thing, and it'll be okay. Now, Originally, I had planned on finishing both of these differently. I was going to paint this one green, this one white, do 2 different treatments. But I think in the interest of showing you what the 2 different looks look like better, I'm going to paint them the same color. So I'm going to paint them both Monet's Garden by DIY. Now I've taped off the little glass cups since they don't remove, and I'll paint around them. But I think that what I can do is paint them both similarly, and so you could really see the difference that doing one technique versus another does. We'll see. In my head, they look very different. We'll see how that goes. So I just have a chip brush. I'm going to dip into my Monet's Garden, and I am just going to paint these guys. I'm assuming 1 coat is gonna do it, and let it dry, and then we'll come back and start finishing them off and seeing how they look. All right, our trees have had the night to dry, and now we need to wax them. So I'm just using clear wax from DIY. I've just got a chip brush that I use for this. I have chip brushes individually for each of the colored waxes. But what I want to do is get this all fully waxed up. Actually, both of them I'm going to wax up. I'm gonna do the same treatment to each, just so that you can see the difference that it makes doing a raised pattern versus a recessed pattern. So this is our raised pattern because we used the molds, and then our recessed pattern is because we used the stamps and impressed them into the clay. So I think if I did the same treatment, it would give you a better idea of how that looks. I had been thinking that the other one I was going to paint white, and I was going to use some of the aging dust down in the crevices and that sort of thing. But I think then that would be a good look for selling it, but it wouldn't be as good a teaching moment. So I opted for the teaching moment for you, and I think it'll still look awesome. So it's all good. But what I want to do is get them both waxed, and then we'll come back for the next step while the wax is still wet, because we'll be using a gold wax over top, and I want to be able to move it. So I want this wax to still be wet. I just want it to be down in all of the little grooves and edging. So I'll carry on, and then we'll be back to carry on. You can see how much, when we add the wax, it darkens out our paint, but how much of the detail is lost. And that's really the beauty of using a colored wax. We're gonna use Golden Rule by DIY to be able to do this. But the idea is, I mean, you could do this with a white wax if you wanted, if you were doing the dark green. If you had painted these maybe white, you could use, or like maybe a pale green like Apothecary. You could add the turquoise wax, you could add dark wax, black wax. You can make your own colored waxes. But the idea now is that we want to get that gold sitting down into the crevices. And you can see, I mean, the gold is gonna take on colors of its own, depending upon what color you're doing it over top of. So you could just put this over top of the green like this and leave it so that you've got this beautiful aged antique look. Or you could now take a soft cloth and you could begin wiping some of that gold back so that we're going to reveal a little bit more of the green. But what we're gonna get is this beautiful kind of antique-y sort of look with more of this soft golden tone. If you want to remove even more of it, take, you know, I still have my clear wax out. I could take my cloth, dip it into the wax, and just rub a little bit more. But look at the look that we're going for and how that's going to reveal it. I'm gonna continue on with that one, but I wanna flip over to the other to just show you the patterning that's going to be revealed on this one. So let's go with where we've got some wording here. And we've got some of our details. And this one, I'm definitely taking a little bit of that clear wax so that I can highlight those details. And look at the difference, how those details stand out versus how they've just disappeared here. So I'm gonna continue on. I envision that I will probably leave more gold on the sides and kind of paint that in, so that, because it doesn't have any detail on its own, we'll get that going, and we'll see whether or not I need a little bit more of anything else as I go. Here's our finished piece. Well, not quite finished, because I think that what it does need is just a little bit balancing out on a cup. So I just have some little pieces of greenery that, you know, I'm thinking we'll just kind of put around there, attach maybe some little berries and that kind of thing, right? So if we put some greenery around here, and then we'll be done. Let me just take this apart because I don't need all those pieces. And I'm just gonna kind of zhuzh it up a little, and then I'll come back and show you the finished piece. But you know, I'm just thinking a little. Okay, now that I've cut that apart, I'm thinking I need 2 of those. Do I have 2 of those kinds of branches? It needs the same. Okay, I will find it. I think there's another one here somewhere that's just like that one. Hopefully, I didn't use it. Otherwise, I'm switching. And then we'll see what we can do. Okay, I'm looking for greenery that's the same. And then, you know, some little pine cones. I may do some little berry picks in the darker red, just to add a little bit of contrast to some of the gold, but I'll do some little gold touches in there too. That kind of makes sense. And then we can call it done. Let's take a look at our finished projects. Now, the idea with this is not, gee, you can't do this project because you don't have those wooden tree forms. I just happened to use those because I had found them, I'd thrifted them. The idea with this is to give you some understanding of the raised detail, the impressing, and then have you play with that and go to town. So this is the raised detail. This is what this ends up looking like. You can see I just kind of zhuzh that side up a little bit, balances it off a bit. And then this is the one where we impressed into it. So it's a little bit softer, a little bit more subtle. They're both lovely methods, and you can age them differently. So with this, you know, you could go lighter because you could do it in white. And, you know, if I decide that, oh, these aren't selling, or I change my mind, I can dry brush them in white or white wax them afterward too. So don't ever think you're locked into a particular look if it doesn't seem to be of interest to your customers and doesn't seem to be moving. I just wanted to do something in a different color rather than white for a change, just because Christmas at least lends itself to a time where people are adding some colors into their home that they might not otherwise. So even if they had a really light decor, typically now is when they will add a little bit of greenery, a little bit of red, a little bit of zhuzhing, some gold to be able to dress it up. Hope this helped you. I know that I'd had a lot of questions when I talked about impressing or doing molds, those kinds of things. So hopefully it gave you a couple of good ideas, a couple of different ways to be able to use some of the stamps perhaps than you've used them in the past. We'll be doing more with them and other products, obviously, but I wanted to give you a heads up on this one just in case you had a couple of triangles that you wanted to make some trees with. Looking forward to seeing you on the next one. As always, give me your thoughts, give me your comments, give other uses and other people that are watching this some ideas beyond what I've shared. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, take care.